Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome to the Guitar Underground. I'm your host, Neil Santos. Most players think that if they want to solo over chord changes, they need to learn jazz theory, modes, arpeggios, chord scale relationships, and the whole thing. And while that is valuable information to have, but what if that's not actually the problem? You're jamming over progression, maybe like a simple 4-chord loop, and you start in the pentatonic shape, and like everything sounds good, and then the chord changes, right? And suddenly you feel like you're guessing, and you're like, oh, where's that note I wanted, So you think, I need more scales. I got to learn all the scales. I need them all, man. Today I want to show you how to follow the chord changes without leaving the pentatonic framework, because that's what I'm all about. Keeping it simple, taking those 5 shapes you already memorized and just doing so much with them. So without jazz language, without blowing up everything you already know, I'm going to show you how to solo over chord changes with that, all right? So if that sounds like something you've been stuck on, make sure you follow the podcast, all right? So you can always stay up to date with new stuff, new lessons and interviews and all that good stuff. All right? So we're going to go over 5 reasons that maybe you're having trouble following the chord changes the way you're doing it now. And then we're going to have 5 actionable tips to help you to incorporate chord soloing. Not chord soloing, I think that's something different. Following the chord changes into your practice routine so you can get better at it. One tip at a time. Chord soloing, I think, is when you're basically soloing with chords, which is crazy. We're not going to talk about that today. All right? Cool. So point 1, you're not lost. You're just not aiming the pentatonic where it needs to go, right? So it's not so much that, you're playing the wrong scale, is that when the chord changes, you have to re-aim the pentatonic. And I'll show you how to do that in a sec. It's not about adding more notes to what you already know, because then you just end up with the 7-note scale, and then it's more of like subtracting notes, like what notes can't I play right now that would sound wonky or that will mislead the listener to thinking I'm soloing over something that I'm not. So there's that. We're going to check that out. But what this will help with is when you know that your scale is the correct scale for the chord, you're going to have confidence what you play. And that comes from the intention, right? Like that this is going to work every time. So you can't have these notes that are not available, right? So instead of playing the 7-note scale, play the 5-note scale where every note is available, and then just move it around. And then if you add up all the pentatonic scales you've played through the whole 4-chord loop or whatever, you're going to find that all added up, it's going to add up to that 7-note scale anyway, right? So you're not missing out on anything. You're just looking at it in a different way, all right? And I think that's a beautiful thing. Point number 2, the chord changes. So one thing you might be thinking is, if I have to switch scales, I have to jump up here and play this part of the neck, and jump down here and play this part of the neck. But you don't need that. You need to just kind of be able to see it all in one spot on the neck, so you're not jumping all over the place. That is cool if it's a choice and you want to jump up higher in the neck for part of your solo or whatever. But it's not cool if it's necessary because you only know that one shape, right? You don't know what shape would show up down here where the other shape was that you were just playing. Does that make sense? I'll show you in a second how that works. So stay in one position, shift your focus, all right? Number 3, the pentatonic scale already outlines the harmony. And we just kind of talked about this where we're not playing any of the bad notes, but in fact, we're playing all the good notes, So a lot of times if you're switching pentatonics with the chord, what you're really playing is the arpeggio of the chord plus a couple sweet bonus color notes that go along with the chord, that work with the chord, which is fantastic. Like, so when you're playing a minor chord and you play a minor pentatonic over it, you're already playing the root, the flat 3, the 5, and the flat 7, right? So there's the triad plus the flat 7. And then you have your 4 chord, your 11, it can be called too, like a color tone, which sounds great on a minor chord. And equally on a major, if you're playing a major chord and you play a major pentatonic over it that matches that chord, you're playing the triad. So you have the 1, the 3, and the 5. But then you also have the 2 and the 6, or sometimes called the 9 and the 11, as color notes. And those sound fantastic over major chords. So you know that whatever you play is going to outline that chord, which is what people say, oh, play the arpeggio, play the arpeggio. So you're playing the arpeggio, but also you have these cool other notes that you can use to like decorate and play around with, which is fantastic. Those are the jazz tensions, the 9s, the 13s, the 11s, but they're right there in the pentatonic. It's not some weird, like advanced thing that you have to think about. Oh, I want to add the 9 to this chord. It's all there. You just follow your ear and don't even worry about what note it is. You can I like to shoot first and ask questions later, right? Like I'll play and then listen back and hear something like, oh, what was that? Oh, that was the 9th. All right. But I'm never, I would be in a big trouble if I'm playing. I'm like, oh, I'm going to play the 9th here. All of a sudden I'm thinking and that messes me all up. Then I'm not sincerely pairing sound to sound. I'm pairing sound to concept, and that doesn't work for me. And if it works for you, that's great. I think it would be cool to be like really intentional, maybe with everything you play, but I just can't do that. So, that's number 3. The pentatonics outline the harmony. And then point number 4 is phrasing matters more than theory. Like if when you're playing a billion eighth notes or 16th notes all the time, what chords am I playing over? I'm not stopping long enough on anything to say, all right, I'm matching up with this chord. So phrasing and being able to, you can hear I went from A minor to G major. Because when the G came around, I hit that note that wasn't in A minor. It's a different note that, that's not in what he was just playing. That's in G major and is part of the triad, actually. And so phrasing in that way is going to really identify, right, to the listener who we're playing for. I mean, we play for ourselves, but really we're playing for somebody to listen and enjoy it. And we have to always kind of consider their point of view, or I try to, and I think it helps when you're making decisions on what you need, what you should be doing or whatever, or what would be helpful to do. And in this case, it's helpful to phrase in a way that gets across to them clearly that, okay, we switched chords. And I think a lot of the greatest players do this, So phrasing is a big thing. And I'll show you how to do that in our 5 tips section. Let's see, point 5. You don't need to think chords. You just need to hear the movement, right? So you really want to use your ears when you're playing, combined with what you're doing on the neck, and really try to match them up. Like in that way, like here, you can hear that coming. Once you start to do this sort of thing and switch with pentatonics for every chord, your brain gets used to what is available, like what options you have for the next chord. right? So you're listening to the chord changes, and a big part of it is knowing when the chord changes. I know a lot of beginners when they solo, they're just playing, right? And like they don't know when the chords change. They just keep going. So the first step is to be able to kind of split your focus between what you're playing on the fretboard and listening to the backing track and go, oh, okay, we're switching a chord, we're switching a chord, we're switching a chord. What chord are we switching to? And then hearing how that changes harmonically in the backing track or the accompaniment. And then knowing, kind of being familiar with what options are available to you in the next scale, so you can kind of like target it in a cool way that has some style, rather than going like, just or dance over there rather than just walk glumly, right? So yeah, using your ears, they're faster than theory. That's what I was trying to say earlier. Your ears will hear what is supposed to happen before your brain goes, oh, I should play the third, or I should jump to the fifth. A ninth would be nice now, wouldn't it? No. You just follow your ears and trust your ears and have big ears. That's what a lot of musicians call it when you're good at listening to what's going around you and adjusting what you're doing to fit or enhance that. And that's what the greatest players do. Cool. So those are the 5 points. So 5 reasons maybe you're not locking in with the chord changes as much as you'd like to. And yeah, we're going to get into the 5 tips. But first, the obligatory plug. It's a pentatonic way. So like if this idea is clicking with you, this whole idea of simplifying instead of stacking more theory, I put together this something that might help take you to the next step. All right. It's a quick personality quiz at pentatonicway.com/personality. And it takes a minute or two, more like a minute. And it'll show you how to naturally approach the guitar, or how you naturally approach the guitar, and where you might be getting stuck. And based on that, you'll get a free 5-lesson email course tailored to exactly what you need to work on, whether that's phrasing, fretboard clarity, or connecting shapes. All right. It's just a simple way to get some direction without feeling overwhelmed. And it's free, which is the best part, right? So free 5-lesson course based on where you are on your journey. So there's 4 different courses that you could end up taking, depending on where you're at. All right, back to the podcast. All right, here are 5 actionable tips to help you work on making the chord changes in your practice routines and then like out in the real world. All right. So tip 1, target 1 note per chord. All right. So pick a simple progression, aim for 1 strong note when the chord changes. Like don't overthink it, just land intentionally. All right. So I have a backing track here. And I actually already pulled up the chords for it on the Scale Trainer app. You can move to different spots. I'm just gonna stay where we are. So this first one, A sharp major or B flat major, is the second shape of the pentatonic, which I think of as the major shape. So I'll probably end up targeting things on the G string here. The G string. Sorry, I am 12 again. See how notes change here? You have the 7th fret is available. That's your 3rd in the A sharp. And then it can go to the 8th. And then it stays the same between these two, C and G sharp. Then it goes back down. So maybe something around there, or on the B string, that changes too in between. So I'll try to target notes that change. And we'll just do 1 note at a time. So let's see how this sounds. Brought to you by Now You Shred. Some of my favorite backing tracks. Forward. B, G sharp. All right, here we go. Well, so part of this backing track is this. He goes here, down, and then he goes up to the eighth, and then down to the fifth. So he's already playing those notes. So I'm going to try to find other notes. I'll try the B string. Where are you? There you go. There we are back there. Yeah, I'm doing different strings so we can have some more options. All right, that's the idea. The slow one like that, it's tough to make a solo with just one notes. Otherwise, you end up playing exactly what he was doing. So he knows. Cool. All right. So that's tip one. If you can find those those single notes per chord that change, those are the ones you want to target, right? So tip two is stay in one pentatonic box. Like if we look at the chords here, or the scales that we chose in the thing, these are always going to default to stay in one part of the neck. That's the point of this trainer. But what we could do is, if we didn't know better, I should aim this down. What am I doing? Sorry, you couldn't see me playing there, just watching my face. All right. So A sharp or, B flat. If we were doing like moving around the neck, we'd have to do A sharp here. And then C here. And then G sharp major, go back down here with the second shape. One G minor. Like if you only knew, all right, minor is the first shape, major is the second shape. If you don't know that, that's kind of the rule of thumb, right? If you're playing A minor, you play the first shape at the 5. And if you're playing A major, you play the second shape at the 5. And that makes it work with those chords, But instead of doing that, instead of going second shape, first shape, third shape, second shape occur, and then first. What this does is shows them all in one part of the neck. So that's going to help you see which notes change. If you're doing that and jumping around, you're not going to see those strong notes from tip 1 that we're telling you, all right, so switch, like when he goes, like you won't see the relationship if you have to go like, you'll have to mess around, and maybe eventually your ear will be able to say, all right, I know if I switch to this shape and then switch to the first shape here and then down here, you make some sort of phrases that make sense and don't sound all disjointed and stuff. Try to keep them all in the same spot. So I'll jam on it like that, and you can hear how that sounds. Yeah. That way you can just noodle around right in one spot and just switching scales shapes. And the 5 shapes you already know would just basically, and 2 of them pull double duty. The one here for the A sharp and the one for the G minor, they're the same scale, which is fantastic. So you really only need 3 shapes to pull this off. Yeah, and then just find those notes that change. Those are the strong ones. All right? Cool. Tip 3, use the pause and resolve. And I love this. I say this all the time. I feel like it's every podcast, but it's such a cool thing. All right? Play a short phrase, pause, then land on a note as the chord changes. This instantly sounds more musical. We've done this before. So you pause, count 2 beats, and in this case, instead of just playing anything, try to resolve to one of those notes that changes. All right, so let me try to do this. That. It's great to practice to say, all right, I pause, and then you listen like we talked about, and then, all right, the next chord is G. What notes are particular to G rather than C? So for C, we were playing the 5th shape. So for G, these notes are different. So if I can set up some sort of phrase, see that, or in this case, you're really targeting that note, and you don't have to like just land and hold it, Stuff like that. You just have fun with it. You know that any note you hit in that scale is going to sound good. So at that point, you can just kind of have fun with rhythm, have fun with breaking the scale up, dee-dur, 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 dee-durts. But yeah, maybe 4 chords is too much. So this is tip 4, loop 2 chords only. All right, start with 2 chords. That's how I started. And say you only had these 2, right? B flat major, A sharp major, whatever you want to call it, to C minor. So you get like this chord. and just go back and forth between those two shapes, you know? You don't even have to play the chords. I like to play the chords at first just to kind of get the sound in my head. But then just start jamming and just try to remember when the chord would change. You can even tap your foot, have a metronome or a drum app. I have a couple great drum apps on my phone. You can get them for free. Some just to keep the time, and then just 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. And so when the one comes around for that C, that C minor, try to make sure you land on a note from C minor. There's the A, A flat, sharp, sound. You know, so mess around like that. 2 notes at a time, 2 chords, then add a 3rd chord, then a 4th chord, you know. You see where I'm going with this. Another one is sing before you play. So this comes maybe later when you're used to the sound, like I was saying, of these pentatonics, and you can anticipate what chords and tones are going to be useful, right? Or in the next chord, or what are going to be available to you. All right? So maybe you say, and then try to play. So, right? But they can hear that those 2 notes want to change between the chords. Da, 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 da. And you could maybe start by just playing along with yourself while you're soloing, you know. You know, that's probably a good way to start. So yeah, tip 5, sing before you play. So let's recap. What are the tips? Tips were target 1 note per chord. You know, look for those notes that change between the pentatonics. Stay in one part of the neck. Don't be jumping all around, because that would you won't see the connection between the shapes. Use the pause and resolve, you know. Play a lick, count 2 beats, and try to hit one of those notes that we targeted in tip 1, right? Start with 2 chords only. Don't go crazy. Don't be jamming over Hotel California or something. Just 2 chords, add 3 chords when you're bored of 4 chords, and when you're bored of 3 chords, do 4 chords. That's what you can do. You'll know when you're ready to move up. And then tip 5, sing before you play or sing as you play, using these, this concept of switching pentatonics per chord, because that's going to help you internalize it and anticipate it. All right? So cool. So you don't need more scales to solo over chord changes. You need better awareness of where you're landing or where you could potentially land, right? If you've been feeling stuck or boxed in or you're missing something, you're probably closer than you think. If you know the 5 shapes, you know everything you really need to know. I'm telling you that right now. You don't need to know a billion scales. 7-note scales are great for writing songs as far as chords go. As far as melodies and soloing, the pentatonics are where it's at, in my opinion. And a lot of very famous guitar player's opinion as well. If you don't just want to take it from me. So I'd love to hear, man, what's been the hardest part about soloing over changes for you? Drop a comment or share your experience, man. I'd love to get back to hear your story and get back to you. All right. So if this helped, make sure you're following the podcast and maybe share it with another guitarist who's stuck in the same place. All right. Until next time, I'm Neil Santos from the Guitar Underground, and keep on picking. I'll talk to you later. Take care. Bye-bye.